Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Crypto Analyst channel. My name is Brendan, and I hope all of you guys are having a great day no matter where you are from. And despite having a very volatile past couple of days in both crypto and the stock market, there's been a lot of really bullish news to come out about cryptocurrency, and I want to talk about all of that in today's video. We have updates on Ethereum 2.0, we have very positive regulation news, and we're going to be going over all of this as well as the Litecoin update, which seems to be backfiring just a little bit depending on which side of the spectrum that you are on. I also want to talk about everything that is happening on this Bitcoin chart because we are still range bound, stuck between support and resistance. So we are still above support, but also still below resistance, and I want to break that one down as well. So first things first, if you are new, welcome to the channel. It's great to have you here. We make videos like this one every single week, around 2 to 3 times a week. But let's dive into Bitcoin first on this chart over here before we get into too much of the news. Because Bitcoin is still very range bound in between this $33,000 level of resistance, which we've already seen 2 rejections from. Now, if you remember, this was a previous support area for Bitcoin, and this has been previous support now turned resistance twice now. So Bitcoin has not been able to break out of this area yet, but in the same way, it's still holding above this $29,000 support right over here at the bottom. So until one of these 2 areas break, Bitcoin is still very much range bound. I see it as a no trade zone. There's going to be a lot of chop and volatility inside this zone, and we're really feeling those effects right now to the most extent. So as we continue to bounce in between these areas from support to resistance, I'm really not doing a lot of trading in here. If anything, I'm looking at fundamentally strong projects at the bottom of support and maybe trying to add to my positions down there. Now, another thing that I want to talk about is some of the outliers from this week. And one of them was Link, which we actually got to talk about in this week's newsletter over at Crypt Nation. We talked about them for this week, and then about 2 to 3 weeks ago, we brought them up as well as they were around support. Now, if you're not a member of Crypt Nation, I have a link to join that in the description down below, but it's a really cool place, and Link was one of the top performers over the last week, as it's up something like 30 to 35%. Now, today it is down with most of the crypto market, but it was able to go all the way back up to its major resistance level around this $9 to $10 area, which was the top of this this falling wedge. Now, a falling wedge is a very bullish formation pattern, and when we see something like this, we are suspecting that with 3 touch points of resistance and 5 touch points of support, it is most likely imminent that this will create a bullish breakout eventually. That is just the nature of how falling wedges work. Now, again, it's not 100% guarantee, but this having both the fundamentals with their updates that they have been releasing this week, they've talked about, making adjustments to their staking and also creating their partnerships with Solana. That alongside this being a very bullish chart, I really like the way that Chainlink looks. So again, Chainlink, one of the top performers of the week. And the cool thing here is that it has not even officially broken out yet. So it's very likely it gives us another entry opportunity over here on Chainlink if the entire market continues to the downside, which is something that we are seeing over here in traditionals as well. I mean, traditionals fell about 2.5% yesterday. They're down about another 1.5% already on the day. Collectively, this means that in the last 2 days, number one, this is the 3rd red day in a row for traditionals, but in the last 2 days, major indices like NASDAQ are down over 4%, which is wild. That's a lot for traditional indices. Excuse me. So keep your eye out for today. I believe we have inflation numbers dropping either today or tomorrow or Monday. I know that we have inflation check coming very, very soon, so that is going to be something to keep an eye on. Now let's get to some of the bullish news before we get into anything that could be bearish. Number one, Ethereum just completed a successful dress rehearsal or test for its upcoming Ethereum 2.0 release. Now, this was actually done over here on the Robsten network. If you have ever messed around with Ethereum test networks, Robsten is one of the most popular. I've used it with buddies and partners when we are testing out program pilots and other things like that. that we don't want to use on the main Ethereum blockchain first for gas reasons. And it's very, very useful. And so this was tested out and it had a very successful launch. So this Ethereum proof of stake update that we have all been waiting for looks like it could be closer than a lot of us think. And there's been a lot of I don't know, theorizing that this might not actually happen in August or September and it might get pushed back again. But from the advances that we are making right now, it certainly looks like this could happen towards the beginning of this fall, just later this year in 2022. So I'm excited to see this hopefully come through. And when this was announced, there was actually some rallying across the board in cryptocurrency, especially in Ethereum. In other news, we have positive regulation coming out of the U.S. government. And so a senator by the name of, and I think I lost her name over here, but we had, I believe, 2 senators, Cynthia Lummis and Kirsten Gillibrand, come out with a very crypto-friendly bill earlier this week. And so what they are doing is essentially trying to propose a way to fully regulate cryptocurrency, but in a very favorable way. And so both of these senators, from my understanding, are very, very bullish on cryptocurrency. In fact, one of them let everyone know through, I guess, public knowledge that she owns over $100,000 worth of Bitcoin alone. And she did this through her financial disclosures. So someone who's very clearly bullish on cryptocurrency owns most than the average person inside of the US does. And she made it very clear she's favorable of Bitcoin, but she understands that it needs to be regulated. So what kind of a trade-off could we positively get if we were to completely regulate cryptocurrency? And this is through tax treatment. So her argument is, yes, we need to make sure that this place is safe, but in exchange for regulating this maybe a little bit more, I want to make sure that everybody has a fair tax treatment when it comes to cryptos. Essentially, in short, what this means is she's going to try to get taxes as low as possible for many different forms of cryptocurrency tax. And in exchange, she wants to regulate the space to make it a little bit more safer, which, you know, arguably, I think that's a pretty fair trade-off. I think a lot of the alternatives are not going to be nearly as friendly from other members of the U.S. government. We have a lot of really, really passionate people inside of the U.S. government right now on cryptocurrency, but there are a few who are pretty adamantly against it as well. So if we can get a bill where we get low cryptocurrency taxes inside of the U.S., I think a lot of people would be happy, even if that meant that things were just a little bit stricter. And again, some people are going to argue against that. They would rather pay the higher taxes and have no restrictions. So it really is a double-edged sword. But this was a pretty cool article nonetheless. Now, Fidelity's Abigail Johnson is also reaffirming the company's crypto commitment in the bear market. Now, if you don't remember, Fidelity actually announced earlier this year about their favor to Bitcoin and their plans to actually use and integrate Bitcoin. And they were one of the first major financial companies to come out and say something like this. And JP Morgan and some other ones followed. But this is them coming out and essentially doubling down on their commitment to the crypto markets. So despite the cryptocurrency winter, the CEO of this US brokerage came out at Consensus and said, hey, we're still very much willing to commit to this community and to this environment. And again, I can't tell you how many times I've said this, but they see this as a long-term play. This isn't a short-term scheme for them. They're going to be in it for the long haul. So lots of positive news from not only government officials, but also in big money, staying very, very adamant about the cryptocurrency ecosystem, despite being in a winter. And what I don't think people understand is cryptocurrency is not the only thing down right now. This is NASDAQ, one of the largest US indices in the world. And it is down tremendously over this year, especially in the tech sector. I mean, NASDAQ, a US index, is down 27.5% almost, which is a wild, wild run to the downside. And yes, Bitcoin is also down and Ethereum is also down. Pretty much everything is down right now. And I don't think everyone understands that. I have people still coming to me and saying, hey, why is Bitcoin down right now? It seems like that is the only thing, when in reality, everything's killed. And a lot of tech stocks are down a lot more than Bitcoin is. So there's positivity there. Now, in our final news article of the day, crypto exchanges have begun to delist Litecoin over its privacy feature. Now, if you aren't familiar, just a couple of days ago or a couple of weeks ago, Mimblewimble was integrated and launched on Litecoin. Now, what this does is this gives Litecoin essentially privacy coin features. And a lot of countries, or rather governments, are not very fond of privacy coins. They want to have complete control and awareness and know where everything and everyone is at all times. And when it comes to privacy coins, they lose 100% of the control over where money is going and who's sending it. And a lot of governments don't like that. So some governments don't care about privacy coins, they let it go. But that also means that they can't really tax privacy coins because they can't know who's sending it, and they also can't know where it's going to. So when it comes to privacy coins, a lot of countries do tend to regulate it very harshly and try to either ban it or put very, very strict regulations on it so that they can know where that money is going to and from. But when it comes to South Korea, they are not one to play these games. And so as soon as this Mimblewimble update got live onto Litecoin or prepared to go live, South Korea has already begun to enforce regulations on exchanges, saying that they need to delist this in order to be compliant. So over the past couple of days, we have seen a couple major exchanges in South Korea unfortunately delist Litecoin. And this is a hard spot because Litecoin is in a very tough place where it needed to have some sort of update to make it different. It was starting to become stagnant. Their purpose for being around, and I'm going to catch some hate for this, but Litecoin scalability was seriously at risk, right? You have other projects that are building layer 1s or NFTs or Web3, or they're building different kinds of ecosystems and business models, and Litecoin was just there as a means of exchange and as a legacy token. And so they were trying to be unique and integrate some sort of additional features to give them more scalability and more of a reason for people to use them, other than the fact that they are trusted and that they've been around for a while. And they decided to move into the privacy sector, which looks like it's going to be a double-edged sword here. And so although they are adding more value to their token and more of a reason for people to use it over time, it looks like, you know, this is going to be one of those, and I keep using this, but this is going to be a double-edged sword scenario where, yes, they're adding scalability, but they're also going to pay the price for adding privacy features to their token. So is this the death of Litecoin? I don't think so. I think it's always going to remain around as a legacy token for a long time. Doesn't mean that it's always going to be like a top 5, a top 10 crypto, but I don't see like Litecoin going to zero because of something like this. But nonetheless, I think this is something that people need to be aware of. A really cool update, and I like the update for Litecoin. However, governments will not like this update nearly as much as I will. So there is that as well, and I imagine that it starts getting treated a little bit more like Monero here as we continue to move into the future. But that is going to wrap us up over here on this update for the crypto market right now. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to stick around and hit that like and subscribe button. Drop me a comment in the comment section down below. But until the next video, I will see you all very, very soon.